This is a completely random collection of unorganized model train related shower thoughts I've been compiling into one project over the past few months. If that's not your thing, I get it. Warning, opinions are inbound. Whatever happened to regular track? I can't think of a single train set that doesn't come with track mounted on a plastic base in HO or N scale anymore. Early Bachmann and Tyco weren't that bad, and we need a manufacturer to make trains like them again. Lionel getting sued by the owners of the old Mantua and model power tooling is one of the funniest things to ever happen in the model railroad world. Any O-gauge product looks best on 3-rail tubular track. DCC sound should be an option and not forced onto buyers. How has a manufacturer not produced a widely available RC car meant to interact with model trains on train layouts? Athearn doesn't do anything interesting anymore, and while I'm at it, I hate their stupid, unreliable couplers that they've started putting onto their equipment recently. Bachmann is overly hated in the modern day for model trains made 50 years ago. Not enough people are willing to give their recent project a shot. Every model train store could screw me over by changing the road name from Nickel Plate Road to New York, Chicago, and St. Louis. Why have only European countries gotten releases of the USATC S160? 19th century railroads have been way too underrepresented in the entire history of the hobby, and as well as logging and industrial railroads while I'm thinking about it. More people looking to model modern equipment isn't going to kill interest in modeling older equipment. Someone really ought to make a shorty auto rack in HO. I'd like to have one that wouldn't take out every signal on most layouts. Traction tires are good, actually. I despise hook and loop couplers. They never uncouple without ripping the entire train off the layout. Manufacturers clearly don't want people to buy trains at MSRP. It's beneficial for manufacturers, stores, and the consumer for hobby stores to have the low prices. Fantasy liveries are usually cool. Y'all just hate fun. The newer Bachmann Sound 440s have dynamo noises, and that is incredibly funny to me. The O-gauge 2-bay hopper that Menards released last year has working roller bearing caps on a $35 train car. They have become unstoppable. Entertainment Junction is set to close at the end of this year, and that's absolutely soul-crushing to someone who grew up with it. Train shows tend to smell funny. I'm sorry, but S-gauge is just not going to be relevant again. There is such a thing as too much detail. It's mostly achieved when something becomes too scary to pick up for fear of damaging it. Broadway Limited sells a syringe to put smoke fluid into locomotives. Every knuckle coupler is inferior to a KD-made one. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Passenger cars should come with the option to body or truck mount the couplers for those who have smaller radius on their layouts. I want to drive my trains with an Xbox controller. There is no point in lighting your passenger cars if there is no interior. It's a personal and massive pet peeve of mine. Lionel will up and collapse when the Polar Express becomes public domain on November 10th, 2099. The amount of trains I see running around with decals applied without a gloss coat to help blend the decals in is way too high. Please gloss them before applying decals. I promise it will look much better. I tried to break a piece of flex track once for some reason. It did not snap, and it flexed back to hit me in the face. The cheapest brand new HO scale locomotive money can buy has painted driver centers, yet the higher end manufacturers never paint the driver centers or pilot wheels. It's been 30 years since we last saw a mass-produced NYC Dreyfuss Hudson in HO. For such a popular and well-known locomotive, that is a shocking amount of time. My friend wanted me to include this one. If anyone called me by my username in the real world at a train show, I'd honestly probably take off running. The world needs an HO scale egg liner. And then an N scale one. I like smoke on my trains, even in HO scale. The fact that the big hauler helped take down the LGB empire with a train that looked like this is absolutely hysterical. Actually, running trains is the most boring part of the hobby. If anybody cares, detailing and fine-tuning locomotives is my favorite part, especially when it's done with friends. My ideal model train consists of a GP unit and a bunch of mismatched coaches and a caboose. Trip pins on the bottom of couplers are a necessary evil, and I hate that. I like magnet-activated couplers, but trip pins are really ugly. Sometimes a high model price is justified, especially for niche prototypes with a small market, since tooling and manufacturing a new locomotive costs a fortune. How does the Mantua 2662 locomotive have more issues with switches than some 060s? Nobody currently offers a Conrail train set in any scale. Reversing loops on 2-rail layouts always seem to develop consistent issues. Has a single person actually bought Lionel HO Fast Track outside of a train set? Headlights should have a yellow tinge to them, but they shouldn't look like the inside of a urinal. Looking at you, Bachmann. Proto 2000 is the worst rendition of Conrail Blue in history. There has never been a HO scale nickel plate road GP30 that got all the details right, including this brass one that has 2 bells for some reason. It was so close. I instantly fell in love with the Intermountain GP10 the second I heard the spitter valve go out. They absolutely nailed the sound on these. Take a listen. I never hear anyone talk about Bowser. I actually want to see more manufactured paint units for the Genesee and Wyoming properties. I don't care if they're everywhere, I just want to own an IORY locomotive. Buying a pin vise is the best thing I've ever done for detailing my trains. It has taken my Berkshire to new heights. eBay 100% always knows exactly what I'm looking for, and worse, exactly knows when I have money to spend and when to recommend another GP30 to me. Where are all the ATSF bluebonnets in HO? In N and O, they're literally everywhere. The saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, just doesn't seem to apply to train shows sometimes. Smaller steam locomotives and 4-axle diesel locomotives hauling short trains will always be more fun than large locomotives and MU units hauling long trains. The color variety and versatility of diesels these days has made them more appealing than modern steam locomotives to me. My club used to do races and pulling power contests, and the stories of locomotives that were just bricks of metal with insane pulling power makes me laugh really hard. My friend's addiction to beer can tank cars seemingly grows every single week. I own a locomotive from the UK now, but I refuse to run until I can get some proper rolling stock to pull behind it. Any stupidly small locomotives that can go unreasonably fast have very distinct places in my heart. Everyone knows I hate Lionel HO, but Lionel's post-war HO steam locomotives have to have the worst drives ever produced. As a little kid, I always wanted one of those suspended G-scale trains going around the room. As an adult, I still want one. My best memories with this hobby always consist of just hanging out with my like-minded friends.